Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Rink-Side with Hits and Clips. Well, in episode number 7, we are going to be recapping what's been going down so far in the Western Hockey League standings. The WHL is one of my favorite leagues in the CHL, and hey, if you guys want to be watching these games for free, all you have to do is put your name in, your email in Victory Plus, and you can watch any game anytime for free. This is the last weekend of the Western Hockey League regular season, and it's coming right down to the wire, especially between the Regina Pats, Red Deer Rebels, and the Moose Jaw Warriors in the Eastern Conference, along with the Seattle Thunderbirds, the Portland Winterhawks, and the Victoria Royals in the Western Conference. So let's get started. Well, if you're new to our channel, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. And if you're unfamiliar with what our channel is about, we cover multiple hockey leagues, including the NHL, AHL, CHL, PJHL, OJHL, and many more. Well, I'm very excited to be talking about this particular episode because I'm covering one of my favorite leagues within the CHL, the Western Hockey League. And my goodness, have we ever got some jam-packed action, especially within the teams that are fighting to clinch that last playoff spot. Well, let's start in the Eastern Conference as the Prince Albert Raiders and the Medicine Hat Tigers, they've been combined with the most points within the Eastern Conference this season. Prince Albert and Medicine Hat, they were the two teams to clinch not only a playoff spot, but they also clinched the division, which is very impressive. The Edmonton Oil Kings and the Calgary Hitmen have given us a really great series this season, and you guys get to experience one more of it this Sunday, tomorrow, Sunday, March 22nd, as the Calgary Hitmen will be in Edmonton to take on the Oil Kings for the last time this regular season. But how about the Brandon Wheat Kings and the Saskatoon Blades? Those teams went up against each other yesterday, and it was the Brandon Wheat Kings who came out on top over a big victory over the Regina Pats. If Regina won that game, they would have clinched that 7th spot in the Eastern Conference for the playoffs. Unfortunately, though, they fell in that game to Saskatoon, and they were unable to do so. So they have to wait another day. But speaking of the Regina Pats, they are also in a tight battle within the Red Deer Rebels and the Moose Jaw Warriors. 3 teams fighting for 2 playoff spots. Personally, I think it's going to be Regina and Red Deer who take those 2, considering that they are 1 point ahead of each other, with Regina at 59 points, Red Deer at 58 points, and Moose Jaw at 57 points. But anything can really happen, as we're going to cover just a little bit of what I experienced from last night's game. As for the Lethbridge Hurricanes, they could just not pull out that victory as they fell 2-1 in regulation over the Edmonton Oil Kings last night. Unfortunately, both Lethbridge and Swift Current will officially be the 2 teams in the East who do not make the playoffs. But how about the Western Conference? My goodness, the Ever Silvertips have been leading the Western Hockey League this season. Not only have they clinched the playoff spot and the division, but they also clinched as the regular season champion as they hit, at this very moment, 115 points with 56 wins, 8 losses, 2 overtime losses, and 1 shootout loss. What an outstanding, remarkable season for the Ever Silvertips. But how about the expansion of the newly Penticton Vs of the BC division? They have been pulling out with also clinching the division in the Western Conference. But as for the Prince George Cougars, the Kelowna Rockets, the Kamloops Blazers, and the Spokane Chiefs, they have all clinched a spot in this year's playoffs. And the Prince George Cougars, I think that's going to be a team that you're definitely going to want to watch out for, along with not only the Kelowna Rockets, but also the Penticton Vs of the BC division. Now, if you guys didn't tune into any Western Hockey League games last night, well, you missed quite a bit of action as it came right down to the wire for all of those Western Conference teams. So let's just break it down. The Victoria Royals, they were down 3-0 to the Prince George Cougars last night. They came back to tie the game in Victoria 3-3. That game went all the way to overtime. Victoria almost won the game, but unfortunately for Victoria, Victoria, they fell to Prince George 4-3 in a shootout. If Victoria won that game, they would be in a playoff position. How about the Portland and Tri-City game? Well, thinking that Tri-City was going to lose either way to Portland, somehow, for a majority of the remaining minutes in that third period, Tri-City had a 3-2 lead in that game with about 10 seconds left. With 2 seconds left on the clock in regulation, Portland tied the game, sending it to overtime, and unfortunately, Portland ended up getting the victory, which was not good for Victoria Royal fans, and it doesn't get any better for Victoria fans because Seattle also went to overtime, getting at least 1 point over the Spokane Chiefs last night. Hoping Spokane would defeat Seattle, that just was not able to happen. So not only did Seattle and Portland get a victory and Victoria falling, but let's look at the standings of what occurred. Well, with Seattle winning in overtime, they got 2 points, putting them at 68 points even in that 7th seed. Portland also won in overtime, so they sit at 67 points in that 8th seed. And then with Victoria getting a point going to overtime in a shootout, they were unable to get the win, so they sit at 66 points, sitting in that 9th seed, just behind Seattle and Portland, and it all comes down to tomorrow. Portland and Victoria have 1 game remaining tonight, Saturday, March 21st, and it pretty much decides who's going to get in the playoffs, with Seattle having 2 games left. They play tonight and then tomorrow. So it's going to be something we're going to have to keep a close eye out for. But unfortunately for the Tri-City Americans, the Wenatchee Wild, and the Vancouver Giants, just even going into the remaining part of this season, you could just see that those 3 teams were just unable to pull out victories. Now, credit to Vancouver and Tri-City for giving it all the effort to try and beat some of those top teams who are already clinched in the playoffs. But unfortunately, Wenatchee is just out of the picture. They have not been able to put any goals up on the score sheet over the past couple of games, and those 3 teams are sitting out of the playoffs. But if you guys want to follow very closely for what's going to happen tonight, going into the playoff picture, who's going to take the last 2 spots in both the Eastern and Western Conference, you guys can tune in to Victory Plus tonight. Like I mentioned, all you have to do is put in your name, your email address. You don't have to pay or anything. Just put your email in and your name, and you're all set to watch any Western Hockey League games on any day at any time. So be sure to keep an eye on both the Regina Pats and the Red Deer Rebels and the Moose Jaw Warriors in the Eastern Conference, as well as the Seattle Thunderbirds, the Portland Winterhawks, and the Victoria Royals in the Western Conference. And so just to give you guys the schedule of the remaining games for the Western Hockey League, tonight, Saturday, March 21st, the Regina Pats are at Brandon, so that is a huge game for Regina as they can clinch a playoff spot. The Lethbridge Hurricanes play their final regular season game tonight versus the Calgary Hitmen at Scotiabank Saddledome in Calgary. The Swift Current Broncos also play their last regular season game as they will be on the road to play the Moose Jaw Warriors, another big game for Moose Jaw, as both Regina, Moose Jaw, and Red Deer fighting for those last 2 playoff spots in the East. And speaking of the Red Deer Rebels, they are also playing tonight, but they are playing one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference of the Medicine Hat Tigers, and Medicine Hat will be the host tonight as they play at home. But looking out even in the West, 2 huge matchups tonight, as it will be the Seattle Thunderbirds taking on the Portland Winterhawks. 2 of those teams will be in the WHL postseason. As for the Victoria Royals, they are once again hosting the Prince George Cougars. It is a must-win game for the Victoria Royals. And if Victoria ends up winning and Portland ends up losing, Seattle and Victoria will be in the playoffs. If Portland wins and Victoria loses, then it's Seattle and Portland in the postseason. So keep an eye on those matches in particular. The Prince Albert Raiders will be on the road to take on the Saskatoon Blades. The Tri-City Americans will also be playing their final regular season game as they will be on the road in Spokane to play the Chiefs. The Wenatchee Wild are on the road to play their last regular season game tonight, playing the top team in the WHL, the Everett Silvertips. The Penticton Vs will be on the road in Kelowna to take on the Rockets. And then to close out tonight, the Kamloops Blazers will be in Vancouver, and that will be the Giants' last regular season game, so be sure to tune into that game also. But there's only 2 games happening tomorrow to close out the regular season for the Western Hockey League. Calgary will be out in Edmonton at Rogers Place to take on the Oil Kings. And then the Seattle Thunderbirds will be taking on the Spokane Chiefs on the road, as Spokane will have home ice advantage tomorrow. So only 2 games in the WHL tomorrow, but tonight will determine who makes the 2026 WHL postseason. So be sure to tune into Victory Plus to find out who those teams will be. But we can already say, looking into the postseason, as it is already updated here on the Western Hockey League website, looking to next Friday to start the first round of the WHL playoffs on Friday, March 27th. The Brandon Wheat Kings are set to take on the Calgary Hitmen, Calgary having home ice advantage. As for the Saskatoon Blades, they will be taking on the Edmonton Oil Kings, Edmonton having home ice advantage. We already know that Prince Albert, Penticton, Kelowna, and Everett will have home ice advantage on their end, but those 2 matchups in particular starting next Friday, March 27th, have already been determined. Brandon at Calgary and Saskatoon at Edmonton. My predictions is that Regina and Red Deer are going to get those 2 spots in the East. I think Seattle is going to claim that 7th seed, but it's going to come right down to the wire between Portland and Victoria. And we know that I'm rooting all the way for Victoria, knowing that they are in the BC division, and we want to get as many Canadian teams in the Western Hockey League playoffs this year. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen tonight? Who do you think are going to be the top 16 teams in this year's WHL playoffs? Be sure to drop your comments down below. But thank you everyone so much for tuning into this episode, as we would also like to welcome Jake Rigillo, as he goes by Riggy. He is a former Uxbridge Bruin who is a rapper artist, and he has just teamed up with us as he is providing all the music in our podcast episodes. So thank you so much, Jake, for allowing us to use your tracks in our podcast. We really appreciate it. And be sure to go check out Jake's music over on Spotify. You won't want to miss it. So thanks everyone, and we will see you in the next episode.
I got 2 30s and I got a 40, so everyone know that I keep it 100. I got it now, a 10 in the clip. If I get caught, it's at least 21. I'm clean at you with it if you was a witness. And you didn't know how to bite in your tongue. When I handle beef, it's always well done. He pop